So I am logging on to VMware vSphere client. That icon is there on your desktop. This will take you to the server where your virtual machines uh, needs to be created. So IP address of that server is 172.168.6.43. I am logging in with the username root and the password as welcome1, and once I am there I will show you the group where you need to start creating your virtual machines. Once I am there are two groups, 11G RAC 1. So group 0, group 1, group 2, group 3 and group 4. You need to create your machines under this resource pool. Group 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9, you need to create your machines under this group, that is 11G RAC 2. Say for example, since mine is group 0, I have created my own subgroup with the name group 00 hyphen Satish hyphen my last name. In your case, if someone wants to create, I am just showing you, you would have created by saying new resource pool as one of the option, and from that new resource pool you need to create a virtual machine. As of now I will create those grouping for you. You just need to worry about creating the virtual machines. Under this resource pool, now I need to create a virtual machine. So I am clicking create new virtual machine of the type custom. Name of my machine is SL DNS. This is the first machine that I am creating. This is the data store where the virtual machines files would be kept. Currently there is a 2.5 terabyte of disk space available here. So I am selecting the only available data store that we have. The virtual machines feature version should be version 8, which is anyways the default choice. If it is not the case, then ensure you select virtual machine version 8. On the next screen, it asks you the guest operating system type. In our case, we will be doing it onto Linux. The version of Linux that we will be using is Red Hat Enterprise Linux 5 64-bit edition. It asks you how many virtual CPU sockets you have, 1. How many number of cores per virtual socket you have, 1. How much memory you want to give to this DNS machine, we need a minimum of 2 GB. For the DNS machine, you will be selecting memory as 2 GB. How many network interface cards you want for your virtual machine? In our case, we need only 1 NIC for DNS machine. So I am selecting only 1. On the SCSI controller screen, it asks you what type of a SCSI controller your machine, virtual machine is having. Default is LSI logic parallel, keep it as is. You must select LSI logic parallel. Now it says, do you want to create a new virtual disk? That option is selected by default. Go to next screen. This screen is very important, where maximum I have seen people don't care about what they are selecting. Disk size should be 80 GB, but you must select thin provisioning. If I don't see thin provisioning being selected, I directly right click that machine and delete it. So thin provisioning means entire 80 GB of disk space will not be allocated now. That 80 GB of space will be a growing file with an auto extend kind of a feature. So initially it will allocate a tiny file. As and when the space usage is increasing, the file will grow. But if you do not select this 80 GB, default is thick provisioning. Means whether or not you use it, it will allocate 80 GB of the disk space, which I don't want you. So unnecessarily the disk space will quickly evaporate in that case. So select thin provisioning without failure. Go to the next screen. There's nothing to be selected on this screen. This screen talks about advanced options, and this shows you the summary now. Before I say finish, I will click on the checkbox edit the virtual machine settings before completion, and I say continue. This shows the hardware of my virtual machine. So I have memory of 2 GB, CPU 1 with 1 socket, video card, a VMCI device, CD DVD device, floppy. Now I don't plan to use floppy, so I will click on remove. So the floppy device is removed. I have a SCSI controller. I have one network interface card, which is a gigabit Ethernet E1000 Intel E1000 kind of a device, and a hard disk of 80 GB with thin provisioning. I am checking for some other options on the options tab. Various other options. I am going to general options if I want to change anything. I go to VMware tools, nothing to be changed on this side. I go to power management, nothing to be selected on this side. Under advanced general, there's nothing to be selected here as well. It says memory or CPU hot plug, we don't want. Boot options, nothing to be selected here as well. Fiber channel, CPU MMU virtualization, swap file, nothing to be selected from there. CPU memory disk, advanced CPU, advanced memory, nothing to be selected from here as well. So our machine is almost ready. I click on finish. I expand my group to see there's a new virtual machine now with the name SL DNS under my group. Clear? You can right click on it and you can go to edit settings. If you have missed out something that you would like to change now, you can do it from here. The only thing I want to change from here is I right click on it, I go to edit settings, options, VMware tools, and there are these two check boxes: check and upgrade VMware tools during power cycling and synchronize guest time with the host. I am selecting both the options. Clear? Which it didn't allow you to do earlier. Once done, I will click OK. My machine is ready for installation. If you want to see the summary, you can go on to the summary tab. This is my virtual machine. Red Hat 5 64-bit of VMware version 8, 1 CPU, which is vCPU, virtual CPU, 2 GB memory, and so on. To power it on, right click on it and say power on. Or you can also click this button, which is power on button. So I am clicking on this one. It shows at the bottom of your screen that the power on of virtual machine has completed. Once done, you can right click on it and say open console. So it will show as if my machine is booting. See here. Now there is no operating system installed under it. I need to first install operating system. So I am clicking on the CD icon. Connect, disconnect the CD DVD devices of the virtual machine. I click on it. It gives me a pop-up menu, CD DVD drive 1. I select the option connect to ISO image on a data store. The ISO image of Red Hat Enterprise Linux 5 is already available on the server. I am selecting the option connect to ISO image on a data store. Once I click this option, it shows me this is my data store 1, under which I see a folder OS ISOs. I double click on it. This is the image that you need to select, which is Red Hat Enterprise Linux 5.4 x86_64, which means a 64-bit Red Hat Linux. DVD ISO 3 GB in size. I click OK. So now my CD is connected to my virtual machine. However, if you see here, it is waiting for a TFTP based booting, network based booting, which will not work in our environment. There is no TFTP server configured. So I click in this black window and then I click on escape button. Then at one point in time it will say operating system not found. Once it shows you that message, click or hit enter button. Now it boots from the CD image that we have provided. So on the first screen where it is waiting for you on the boot prompt, we want to do a GUI based installation. So on the boot prompt, just hit enter. On the first screen, it is asking you to do a media test. Now, media test is required when you have the physical CD or DVD that might or might not be readable. So, instead of facing that unreadable DVD problem at a later stage, it is good idea to do a media check before you start doing the installation. But in our case, we are not using a physical media. We are using a software media ISO image. So, in that case, I will skip doing the media check. I am going to the next screen. English as the language, keyboard style as US English. Now it prompts you for the installation CD key. The installation CD key is 6 times 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. E9000 7FC00. 6 times 0, E9000 7FC00. Click OK. It shows you a warning. Do you want to initialize the hard disk? Click yes. Now what do you want to do? From the drop down list, select create custom layout. Go to the next screen. This is your 80 GB hard disk. Click new. Give the partition mount point name as root and make the size as 12,000 MB. Click new one more time. From the file system type, select swap and make it 4 GB 4096. Remaining disk space is 65 GB roughly. Click on new. Give the mount point name as NetApp and select the checkbox or radio button fill to maximum allowable size. Click OK. Now the entire 65 GB space is allocated to the third and the final mount point NetApp. Go to the next screen. On the bootloader screen, there is no change required. Go to the next screen. Now this is the place where you need to assign IP address to your DNS machine. As of now, it is selecting the IP address from DHCP server, Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. We don't want DHCP based IP addresses. We will be assigning static IP addresses as per the table that I have shown you earlier. So I click on edit. I say manual configuration, and the IP address for my DNS machine is 70.1 and the subnet mask is 255.255.0.0. Enable IPv6 support must be unchecked. Click OK. So now you see, instead of DHCP, it shows me my IP address, and IPv6 shows disabled. Name of my machine is sl-dns.oracleexpert.com. Remember, it's your initials -dns dot domain name, and domain name is oraclexpert.com. Most of the time people mistype it by an additional E, which is not the case. Clear? Give the gateway IP of your machine as 172.168.3.254, primary DNS as your own IP address. There is no secondary DNS. So this machine for us will work as our own DNS machine. So give your own IP address as your DNS server. There is no other DNS server. And go to the next screen. I am located here in India. Highlight on the map and select on that yellow dot, which takes you to Asia, Calcutta. Once you have ensured, go to the next screen. Type the root's password as welcome1. This is a lab environment, so use one common password, welcome1. So tomorrow if you forget, there's somebody else to guess your password. But if you keep some your restricted passwords, keep it restricted to yourself. Don't tell to others that your machine's password is welcome1, but keep it as welcome1. Go to the next screen. Deselect the software category virtualization and select the remaining two categories, software development and web server. Click the radio button, customize now, and go to the next screen. Now from each of those categories that you see on the left hand side, except virtualization and languages, click the category, click the sub items from the right hand side, select all of them by pressing Ctrl A button. Right click on it and say select all optional packages. Repeat the same for each category that is there on your left hand side except virtualization and languages. So I click on applications, click in the right side list, Ctrl A to highlight all of them, right click on them and say select all optional packages. Click on the category development, in the sub list, Ctrl A, right click, select all optional packages. Servers category, in the sub list, click Ctrl A, right click, select all optional packages. Same for the base system. Do not select anything from virtualization and languages. Go to next screen. It will automatically determine the dependency in the software packages that you have selected, and it would do a package dependency check. It will display me a summary screen, after which once I say install, it will begin the installation of operating system. This is the summary and I am ready to install. Installation on our server with this kind of a selection takes roughly 15 to 20 minutes. So there's nothing to be seen hereafter. Once you trigger the machine creation, after 15-20 minutes, from then your machine should be ready. So there's nothing to be recorded on the screen as of now. So I'm pausing the video momentarily until it finishes doing the installation, and I would resume capturing the video again, because once after the installation is done, there is a first time boot interview. That interview asks you about certain questions after installing the operating system only once. So until then, once it starts doing the installation, I am going to put a pause on this video and we'll resume it once the installation is done. So it's about to start the installation process. It is preparing the inventory of all the packages that we need to deploy depending on the selections that you have made earlier, and then it will start doing the installation. So the installation has started. This is where I plan to pause this video. So the installation is done. I am rebooting my machine now, and now it will take me to the first boot interview session. A first boot interview session captures my responses for certain general questions about what features I want to enable, including firewall, security enhanced Linux, and getting kernel dumps configured, whether or not I need it in my installation. So accordingly, I will provide my responses, and that would be the end of the installation. However, there are certain other cosmetic steps that would be required, because we'll be using this particular machine for variety of other different activities going forward. So it will not just be a passive DNS server in our case, it will be used for multiple other things as well. So whatever things, softwares, packages, configurations needs to be there in place, we'll configure it immediately after the installation is done. Almost all of these settings you would need to do once you configure your DNS, and once we configure the clustered nodes alpha, beta and gamma at some point in time during our RAC discussion. So as of now, it is booting after the installation, and it takes me to the welcome screen. Nothing to be done here. A license agreement which apparently you need to agree. From the firewall, you need to disable firewall mandatorily. It shows you a warning, but continue with that warning as well. On the next screen, it prompts you for security enhanced Linux. By default, it is enforcing. You must disable it. Once you click, it will show you a second warning. Click it despite that. It shows you kernel dumps, whether or not you want to capture those kernel dumps. We don't want to capture. It asks you about day, date and time, which I am keeping as default as of now. It says, do you want to configure software updates? I said no. I prefer to register at a later time, and I hit no thanks, I will connect later. It asks you to create additional users if you want, which I don't want to do immediately, and I continue despite the warning. Obviously no sound card setup, no additional CDs, and that's it. So my first boot interview session is over. Now it will reboot my machine, and once my machine reboots, it will take me to the Linux DNS machine. There are certain steps that you need to configure that I am going to show you now. So it has restarted the machine, and once it is restarted, I am going to install certain missing packages, and I would also install VMware tools. VMware tools are required for smooth functioning of keyboard, mouse and the display settings. And then I would install if there are any missing packages, which always there would be two of them, libaio development libraries, I will install those missing packages as well. So after the first boot interview, it's rebooting. I am logging in with the user ID root, password you have given at the time of installation. From this CD icon, I will again connect my ISO image on the data store. The same ISO image I am connecting one more time. That is because your default installation would have certain missing packages which we would like to install, because at some point in time we are going to install Oracle software also on this machine for cloning practice. Once the CD icon is displayed, I can see my CD is here. I will install the RPMs as by saying libaio development star. So these are those two missing packages which I have installed. So both of them are now there. So machine wise it looks okay, except that my display is very small. Plus my keyboard and mouse might not work correctly. So I am unmounting my CD first. I right click on it and I say eject. Once my CD is ejected, I click on VM, guest, install upgrade VMware tools. Once I click on this one, it will mount another ISO image. See here, now the CD DVD icon is there, and this is the package software, that is VMware tools, that you need to install. I am closing this window. I go back to my command prompt, and then I say I ensure that I am in my present working directory. Then I say gunzip /media /VMware tools /VMware tar-xf-. Like this. Once done, it will extract that VMware tar gzip software in my local directory called as VMware-tools-distribution. Once I go there, there's a script which I need to run, VMware-install.pl, and for every question that it asks you, simply press enter. The window momentarily expands, indicating display is now being adjusted, but it again shrinks back. That's it, the installation is done. I am back to my command prompt. The software is installed. From the system menu, I log out from root, and now you see my window has a proper display. I click on username and type in the password. The display is quite better. I open the command prompt one more time and I validate the settings that I have given during installation. To get started off with, I check my IP address. This is the same IP that I have given during installation, 172.168.70.0. I check my host name, and this is the host name that I have given during installation. I check my etc host file, which is normally needs to be edited after a fresh installation, and I can see already that it requires some editing. I go to the last line, which is : 1. I delete it. Instead, I put a new line, 172.168.70.1, and the fully qualified domain name of my machine followed by the short name. From the first line, you must remove this item. This is how it should look like. 127.0.0.1 localhost.local domain space localhost. Second line, your own IP address 172.168.70.1, fully qualified domain name of your machine. In my case, it is sl-dns.oracleexpert.com followed by short name space sl-dns. Save the setting and restart the network services. Your machine is now ready for the installation. I can see 63 GB of a NetApp mount point is available for doing my remaining configuration. But as of now, we are done with a virtual machine creation. Once I am done working with a virtual machine, like a general machine, you can halt it by typing the command halt. So it will shut down, and once it is down, you are off from it as if you have physically powered off a machine. Clear? As of now, the status of the machine, icon wise, it is showing me that it's powered on. Once it is down, now the icon changes to an idle state. That's it. This is